So the thing that I thought was most interesting is Crystalia came back in the last week, did Brian Callen, who showed up on the Fighter and the Kid podcast.
Well, Callen's more back.
Yeah.
Callen went and did a full Fighter and the Kid podcast,
Yeah.
which was his old podcast that he still owns half of. D'Elia is kind of back. He released an apology video, but he's not back yet to creating content like he used to entertain people.
Yes.
But Callen just showed up to the Fighter and the Kid. I don't think addressed anything. Just sat down and started podcasting.
Yep. So I watched the Crystalia, It's Been a While, which was essentially an apology video and a discussion of what he says is sex addiction. And I thought it was interesting, but had several non sequiturs.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he was talking about, for instance, his sex addiction and apologizing to the public for it. I was like, okay, these are non sequiturs, especially given that at the beginning of this, what you mentioned was that you had done nothing illegal and all your relationships were consensual. Now, I understand a private apology to people who you were unkind to or didn't treat nicely, but it seems it seemed very confused to me, and I want to break down why. Go for it.
Quick recap for people who don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Crystalia, comedian, actor. Some women came out and said that he was messaging them when they were under 18.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and said, as soon as I found out that they were under 18, I stopped talking to them. They've released the screenshots in the wrong order, basically, or done some clever editing. Here's the full account. They go back and forth. And what comes out is that Crystalia has sex with a lot of his fans. And so far, nothing has come out in terms of it being non-consensual or someone under 18, but that he does have sex with a lot of his fans.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at in terms of what shook out so far.
And in the video,
he disappeared.
Video, yeah.
He lost a movie. He literally shot a movie and they just recast the part and got rid of him. He was in a TV show. He was not brought back for another season and he stopped making YouTube videos. So actually it ended up having a very large impact on his career.
Yeah. So this is why I didn't really know what to make of it, because while I was like, okay, it sounds like you cheated on your fiance.
I was going to say this.
Definitely deserves an apology. Like she does.
That's the part no one is talking about.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people upset on the behalf of his fans who he slept with, because maybe they're 21 and there's a power dynamic and we can go into what that means. But very, very little spoken about the fact that he had a fiance. So it seems to me like what people are canceling for is not the infidelity, but the hooking up with fans.
Similarly, when Kevin Hart cheated on his wife, I think this is, maybe not the first time. Maybe it was the first time because there was some, I don't know how he wound up with his first wife. He says that he was with his ex-wife and they'd sort of separated and then he wound up with this new woman, but he did cheat on her, was being blackmailed. And no one cared about the infidelity. No one cared. And that was happening at the same time as he was being canceled from the Oscars for 9-year-old tweets.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting because to me, the greatest moral lapse that they both described was the betrayal of their most cherished relationship.
I completely agree. I want to talk about Crystalia in terms of what people are coming at him for.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot about the power dynamic thing, age, but to me, the thing he did that's the worst is the thing no one is upset about, which is cheated on his fiance like 50 plus times.
Did he? Well, he didn't say that all of them were on his fiance. He said he cheated on every relationship, including his fiance.
Yeah, my impression was that he basically had sex every night that he went out to tour, which was a lot. Maybe he just met his fiance a couple months ago, but if they've been together for years, it sounded like he's cheated on her.
Yeah.
A lot.
So what I totally was, this is why I felt non sequitur. When I was watching the part where he described sex addiction and how it ruled his life and how he would receive 50 DMs, reply to all of them, try to get laid as often as possible, and how it became all consuming, I'm going, this is a segment, makes total sense.
But it's bad for him.
Yes.
That I would understand if he came out and he said, I had sex addiction and it's bad. It's really bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
What he said, which I don't know if this is true because I'm not one of the people he DM'd, was that he was pretty upfront purposefully because he didn't want to hurt people. So someone would DM him and he'd say, you should come back to my hotel or we should have a drink and then have sex. He was very explicit.
Yeah.
If that's true, if it's not true, then okay, well, if you're lying to people and deceiving people, it's bad. But if that's true, is that hurting the fan? Because I understand why the sex addiction hurts him. But my question is, you're a fan. You say, oh my God, I saw you're coming to town. I love you so much. And he says, that's awesome. You're really cute. We should get a drink and then you should come back to my hotel. And that's his first message to you. And then you have sex with him. Are you
harmed by that?
Are you harmed? Yeah. Has he done something bad to you?
Well, there's two questions. One, are you harmed by that? And second, is it his responsibility such that he ought to apologize? And
he has harmed you, I guess,
Yes.
versus you've purposely like made a decision that's just bad for you.
So the first one I think is, I don't know the answer to, like, let's put it this way. Let's say that Chris D'Elia was like a heroin user and was honestly inviting people to come back and shoot up with him. And they did. I think at that point, it makes sense to like apologize to them. Clearly they have their own free will, but hey, I invited you to do something that wound up being very destructive to your life. And I probably could have anticipated that. And even if I didn't, I'm sorry that I was a vehicle through which you did that drug addiction thing. The question is so if drug addiction is over here, and then over here is like, I invited her over to play board games, and like board games, I'm addicted to them. They're really bad for me. They've totally consumed my life, but I'm not going to apologize to all the people I played board games with.
Sure, video games.
Because I don't expect that then video games maybe are somewhere else. Maybe that's got a more addictive quality. It's more likely to destroy your life. I don't know. The question is, where does sex fit in this sort of spectrum, continuum, et cetera? Well, et cetera is not the right word there. Where does it fit on that continuum? And I have heard people describe it a variety of ways. I actually don't know the answer. I can understand that it is upsetting to sleep with someone, want more of a connection and relationship with them, and then not get it.
Yes, that is upsetting, but that happened to me in college.
Yes.
I met a girl. We knew each other for months. We flirted. We hooked up. We had sex. I wanted to date her. That was not her plan. My feelings were hurt. I wouldn't say that she did anything wrong, though. Like, I was hurt, but I wouldn't say that us having sex was any worse than the human experience, which the Buddha describes as nothing but suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So someone's friendship could hurt you. Maybe you want to see them more often than they want to see you. To interact with a human and have mismatched desires is going to cause harm. So what's the solution to that?
So, well, I'm going to go with what I follow you. I'm going to go with what a lot of people say, the power dynamic. That's become So let's play this game. So let's pretend that Chris D'Elia is not Chris D'Elia. He's just a guy who looks like Chris D'Elia who isn't famous. Some girl sees his profile, thinks he's cute. He says, hey, do you want to come over and have sex? Is that a problem, assuming that he has a sex addiction and it winds up being, ought he apologize for that if he isn't famous? I think a lot of people think, well, certainly not publicly. Like if you're a CEO of a company and that's, she's not contacting you because you're the CEO, even though you're a public facing figure, you don't necessarily need to apologize for that. Where a lot of people say that there's a problem is when they are younger, because that they is seen as increasing the power dynamic, and that they admire him. They admire his work. But what I would point out is that in the scenario that you just described, there was I knew you at this time. There's a tremendous power dynamic. You were obsessed with this girl for a period of time, and she was not obsessed with you.
Well, she started and then I blew it.
Okay. But the point is that power dynamics exist outside of fame. Staggering power dynamics in terms of who wants whose attention and would do anything to get it and would take you to dinners and change your personality and do things that you wouldn't normally do in order to get someone to like you, sleep with you, pay attention to you, look at you a certain way.
Yeah, Joe Rogan makes the point. Being a beautiful person is an incredible power dynamic in terms of if power means someone is willing to make sacrifices, throw money at impressing you. Obviously there is power in beauty.
Yes.
There's power in money. There's power in fame. There's probably power in physical strength. Like there's power all over the place.
Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.